It all started on a Sunday morning that seemed no different from any other at Lakewood Church in Houston. The massive auditorium shimmered under golden lights, a sea of eager faces waiting for the words of Pastor Joel Osteen, a man known for his charm, optimism, and multi-million-dollar ministry. But no one expected that this ordinary service would turn into one of the most unforgettable moments in the church's history, when Senator John Kennedy would stand up, challenge everything, and change hearts in ways no sermon ever had. As the choir finished singing, Joel Osteen took the stage in his signature suit and gentle smile. The audience applauded thunderously. He began his message on prosperity and faith, speaking about abundance, blessings, and how God wanted everyone to think bigger. He spoke about the power of positive thinking, about declaring success, and about believing that wealth was a sign of divine favor. The congregation nodded, many cheering, some even crying, inspired by the promise that their struggles could vanish with enough faith. But among the thousands sat a man who didn't clap: Senator John Kennedy, known for his Southern wit and unshakable moral compass, had quietly slipped into the back row. He wasn't there for a spectacle or a sermon. He was there to listen and to understand why so many Americans had come to worship not just God, but the idea of wealth itself. Joel's sermon grew more passionate. If you speak favor, you'll receive favor. If you think prosperity, you'll live in abundance, he proclaimed. Then, as if on cue, large screens flashed images of expensive cars, mansions, and smiling families under the caption, "God's Blessings in Action." That was when Kennedy's patience broke. Slowly, he stood up from his seat. His voice, deep and steady, carried through the sanctuary. "Excuse me, Pastor," he said, "but I don't recall Jesus ever saying anything about needing a mansion to prove his love." The room went still. Heads turned. Joel paused mid-sentence, blinking in surprise. "Sir," he began cautiously, "this is not the time for interruptions." But Kennedy didn't back down. "Oh, I reckon it is, because you're talking about a God who rewards people with wealth, but the God I know rewarded folks for humility, for kindness, and for helping others who can't pay them back." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nodded quietly, others frowned, defensive of their beloved pastor. Joel tried to keep his composure, his trademark smile faltering. "Sir, if you don't agree, you're welcome to leave." Kennedy looked around the church, thousands of people hanging on every word. "Leave?" he said, shaking his head slowly. "No, Pastor, I came here hoping to hear about faith, not finances, about service, not status." At that moment, 2 security guards began walking toward him, responding to Joel's discreet signal. The audience gasped as they approached the senator, asking him to sit down or step outside. Kennedy didn't resist. Instead, he raised a hand and said, "Before I go, I just want to remind everyone here of something Jesus said. It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." Silence fell. Even Joel looked shaken. The guards hesitated, unsure whether to touch him. Kennedy looked directly at Osteen, his expression calm but firm. "Pastor, you've got the biggest church in America. Maybe it's time you used it not to sell hope, but to live it." Then he turned and began walking toward the exit. But before he could leave, a voice called out from the back row. "Wait!" It was a young woman, tears streaming down her cheeks. "He's right. I came here because I lost my job and my faith. I was told to give more and God would bless me. But I gave everything, and I'm still struggling." Her words broke something open in the room. One by one, others began to speak. A single mother, an elderly man, a veteran. Each shared stories of giving to the church, hoping for miracles that never came. The air was heavy with raw honesty. Joel stood frozen, listening to what he had never truly heard before. Rather pain behind the smiles, the sacrifices behind the donations. Kennedy stopped near the door, watching silently. Finally, Joel took a deep breath and stepped down from the pulpit. "You're right," he said quietly. The crowd fell silent again. "I've preached about blessings for so long that maybe I forgot what true blessing means. It's not what we have, it's who we help." He turned to Kennedy. "Senator, a broken bar. Thank you for reminding me." Kennedy simply nodded. "Well, Pastor, That's what we're all supposed to do, and remind each other what matters most. The rest of that service was unlike any other. Joel invited the congregation to open the church doors for anyone in need, to serve food, collect supplies, and start real programs for struggling families. Within weeks, Lakewood's outreach doubled. Homeless shelters were funded, medical clinics opened, and meals were served to thousands. News of the incident spread across the country. Some criticized Kennedy for confronting a preacher. Others called him brave. But what no one could deny was that something had changed, not just in Joel Osteen's ministry, but in the hearts of everyone who had been there that day. Months later, Joel invited Kennedy back, this time not as a critic, but as a guest. Kennedy stood once again before the congregation and said with a smile, "Faith without compassion is like a sermon without a soul. It don't matter how loud you preach if your heart ain't listening." The crowd erupted in applause. Even Joel smiled genuinely this time. That day became a reminder that true faith isn't proven by what we own, but by what we give, not just from our wallets, but from our hearts. And as John Kennedy walked off the stage, he looked up toward the ceiling of that massive church and whispered, "Now that's a message worth preaching."